What if the housing market you see on your phone, like the Zillow and Redfin apps that you scroll through every single day, what if that is completely fake?
Oh, I mean, fake is a strong word, but yeah, heavily curated.
Right. But what if, when you're looking at those pristine digital window displays of available homes, you are actually only ever looking at the leftovers?
It really shatters that whole illusion of total transparency that we've all just kind of come to expect, right?
Totally.
We're so used to the idea that real estate is this democratic thing.
Yeah.
You want a house, you look online, you see the price, you make an offer.
Yeah, exactly.
But the reality at the very top of the market operates on, well, an entirely different set of physics.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to pull back the curtain on what is, quite literally, an invisible economy.
And it is fascinating.
It really is. We are unpacking this highly specific, totally fascinating stack of 2026 real estate materials provided by Cara.
Right. She's an Indianapolis-based luxury and commercial real estate broker.
Exactly. And for you, the curious listener who really wants to understand how these complex systems actually function behind the scenes, this is going to fundamentally change how you view your own neighborhood.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we aren't just reading a property brochure today. We're using Conde's neighborhood profiles and her massive archive of highly technical real estate insights to really reverse engineer the shadow market of 2026.
But to do that effectively, we have to establish the stakes.
Right.
Before we can tear into the macroeconomics and, all the hidden financial instruments, we have to look at what people are actually fighting tooth and nail to buy in the first place.
So we are zooming in on a micro market, specifically a neighborhood called Admirals Pointe.
Admirals Pointe, yeah.
It sits right on Geist Reservoir, which is this massive 1,900-acre lake on the Indianapolis side of town. And the marketing material calls this the crown jewel of Indianapolis living.
It's quite a title.
It is. And when you look at the lifestyle pitch, it is intoxicating. They describe it as dock at your door living.
Right. You get these sprawling, mature trees, incredible wooded privacy, and this resort-like atmosphere.
Yeah, where you can literally boat, water ski, and fish right off your own private or deeded dock.
The appeal is super obvious, but the underlying value driver here is this concept of commercial gravity.
Okay, commercial gravity.
Yeah, because Admirals Pointe isn't just like a secluded cabin in the woods. It is tethered to highly desirable suburban infrastructure.
Ah, gotcha.
You have immediate access to the Hamilton Southeastern School District, which carries an A+ niche rating. And for buyers seeking private education, elite institutions like Cathedral High School and Park Tudor are just minutes away.
So it's essentially like having a private country club that doubles as your backyard, but without sacrificing any of the modern conveniences.
Exactly.
I am genuinely obsessed with the idea of, closing my laptop after a Zoom meeting, walking out the back door, and instantly dropping a kayak into the water.
It sounds pretty ideal, doesn't it?
It really does. And you're still only, a 10 to 20-minute drive from the upscale suburbs of Carmel and Fishers, which means you have instant access to places like Daniel's Vineyard or the Ale Emporium.
Right, and that specific collision of desires, absolute pristine seclusion combined with instant urban utility, that is what commands a massive premium.
I bet.
According to the sources, the median list price in Admirals Pointe in early 2026 is around $600,000.
Wow.
Which represents a significant premium over the rest of the Geist area. However, for a true waterfront estate featuring those private docks we talked about.
Dock at your door ones.
Exactly. The floor for those is well above $800,000 and easily scales into the multi-millions.
Which really brings us to the psychological profile of the buyer here.
Yes, because they are paying for isolation without isolation, if that makes sense.
That's a good way to put it.
This buyer demographic demands the prestige and, the low crime security of a top-tier Midwestern suburb, but they want to retreat to an enclave with virtually zero street traffic.
Right. They want to go shop at the fashion mall at Keystone and then just vanish into a private wooded sanctuary.
Exactly.
And here's where the narrative takes a really sharp turn. Because you have this dream neighborhood, right? You have buyers with multi-million-dollar budgets. But in early 2026, Admirals Pointe is experiencing a brutal inventory crisis.
Brutal is the right word.
The sources state there are only about 3 active listings in the entire community.
Just 3.
Just 3. It is a suffocatingly tight seller's market. And because of this extreme scarcity, Cara specializes in curating off-market properties.
Right.
The materials note that many of the rarest, most expensive estates never even reached the public MLS.
The multiple listing service.
Exactly, the MLS.
Yeah, Conde offers what she calls white glove, confidential guidance to maneuver through these private networks.
Wow.
So the physical property might sit on a lake in Indiana, but the transaction takes place entirely in the shadows.
Wait, I have to push back on this concept a little bit. If a house isn't listed publicly on the MLS, how on earth does a buyer even find it? It sounds like an invite-only secret society.
It essentially is.
And more importantly, from the seller's perspective, why wouldn't you want your home on the open market? Like, if I'm selling an $8 million estate, I want a massive, bloody bidding war to drive the price up.
That's the logical assumption, yeah.
Right. Like, keeping it a secret seems totally counterintuitive.
It does seem counterintuitive until you factor in the primary currency of the ultra-wealthy.
Which is?
Privacy.
Oh.
When a multi-million-dollar estate hits the public MLS, you aren't just inviting bids, you're inviting the public into your most intimate spaces.
Oh, I see.
You've got photos of the master bedroom, detailed floor plans, the location of security cameras, the layout of the children's wing. All of that becomes permanent public record, scraped by thousands of real estate websites.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the security aspect makes perfect sense. I mean, nobody wants strangers dissecting their floor plan on the internet.
Exactly. High net worth individuals actively pay to avoid that digital foot traffic.
Okay, but there has to be a financial upside to keeping it hidden too, right?
There absolutely is. The financial strategy hinges on manipulating buyer psychology and avoiding the days-on-market stigma.
Days-on-market stigma?
Yeah, think about it. If you price a highly unique $8 million home on a public app, the buyer pool is naturally microscopic.
Right. Not many people can afford that.
So it might just sit there for 150 days.
Yeah.
And in the public market, when a house sits that long, buyers naturally assume something is structurally or legally wrong with it.
Oh, right. They think, why hasn't anyone bought this yet?
Exactly. And the perceived value plummets.
Okay, so it's really similar to a dark pool in stock trading.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. Like institutional investors trade massive blocks of shares off the public exchanges so they don't spook the market or devalue the asset. So by keeping a house off market, you completely eliminate that ticking clock.
That is a perfect structural metaphor. Furthermore, off-market networks create this sort of artificial exclusivity.
How so?
Well, the broker isn't saying, here is a house you can bid on, along with the rest of the internet. The framing is, I have selected you for an exclusive, quiet opportunity.
Ah, I see.
The buyer no longer feels like they are shopping. They feel like they have one access.
Wow.
And that psychological shift actually hardens the asking price and prevents lowball offers.
So by refusing to list the property, you actually actively protect its perceived value.
Precisely.
That is brilliant. But honestly, kind of terrifying if you are a buyer trying to break into that tier without the right connections.
That's incredibly daunting.
Yet, when you zoom out, this cutthroat off-market maneuvering at Admirals Pointe isn't an isolated phenomenon.
Not at all.
The sources show us that this local residential scarcity is actually a symptom of a massive macroeconomic explosion happening across central Indiana in 2026.
Because the micromarket is always a reflection of the macroeconomy.
Right.
Conde's archive highlights a pivotal trigger event here, a 0.25% interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
That seemingly tiny adjustment served as the psychological and financial unlock for the 2026 market.
You know, 0.25% sounds like a rounding error. But on a $50 million commercial development, that decimal point dictates whether a project gets funded or just dies on the vine.
Exactly. It's millions of dollars in difference.
And the sources project that this central Indiana comeback will actually shatter the National Association of Realtors' national forecast of 14%.
That's huge.
The boom is spilling heavily into the commercial sector, too. We're talking about massive warehouse markets in Plainfield, a surge in senior living apartments, and what the sources call recession-resistant early education real estate.
Right, and we also have to look at the cultural drivers creating this commercial gravity.
Like what?
Well, Cadillac is building a Formula One headquarters in Fishers,
Oh, wow.
and a sprawling pickleball facility is opening in Westfield.
Okay, so it's not just local mom-and-pop shops.
No, these aren't just local businesses opening up shop. These are international prestige anchors.
Right.
And F1 headquarters brings specialized engineers, global executives, and massive corporate wealth into a very concentrated geographic area.
which completely explains the shadow market at Admirals Pointe.
Exactly.
If you are flying in an executive from Europe to run an F1 division, they don't want a cookie-cutter house. They want the off-market estate with the private dock.
Bingo.
But here's where the sources get incredibly dense, and I really need you to walk me through it.
Okay, let's do it.
Because of this hypergrowth, investors are scrambling to buy commercial space, but banks are tightening up. And Condé's archive features a strategy called the master lease option.
Yes.
Is this essentially like the billionaire's version of rent-to-own to bypass traditional banking?
Billionaires rent-to-own is the exact mechanism, just scaled up to commercial proportions.
Okay, so how does it actually work?
Let's walk through the mechanics. Suppose an investor wants to acquire a 50-unit apartment building, but the banks are demanding exorbitant down payments, or the interest rates are temporarily unfavorable.
Right, which happens all the time.
Exactly. Instead of walking away, the investor approaches the owner and executes a master lease option.
Meaning they lease the entire building as a single entity?
Yes. The investor leases the entire property from the current owner for a fixed monthly rate.
Okay.
The investor now has the right to sublease those 50 individual units to tenants, manage the property, and collect all the rental income.
Oh, I see.
Crucially, the agreement includes an option to purchase the entire building at a predetermined price within a set time frame, say 3 to 5 years.
Wait, so the investor controls the cash flow immediately without taking out a massive bank loan?
Yep.
And if that new F1 headquarters down the road causes property values to skyrocket over the next 3 years, the investor gets to buy the apartment building at yesterday's locked-in price.
You got it. They capture 100% of the future appreciation while bypassing the traditional banking bottleneck entirely.
That is wild.
It is a brilliant arbitrage of time and asset control. And the sources also detail another aggressive tactic investors are using to outmaneuver the banks.
What's that?
506B syndication.
Oh, right. I saw that term in the archive. Syndication usually means pooling money together, right? Like a group investment.
On a fundamental level, yes. But a 506B capital raise is a specific SEC exemption.
Okay.
It allows a real estate sponsor to raise an unlimited amount of money from accredited investors, essentially high net worth individuals, without having to register the security with the SEC in the traditional time-consuming way.
So by utilizing this 506B loophole, they are essentially crowdfunding a corporate takeover of local real estate.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
I mean, they gather millions of dollars in private capital and buy up commercial warehouses or early education centers in cash, which completely ices out the average buyer who is waiting 45 days for a bank to approve their commercial mortgage.
You're hitting on the exact reason why central Indiana is transforming. Between international automotive hubs, recession-resistant asset acquisitions, and these private syndications, the region is positioning itself as a heavy-hitting institutional investment hub.
Right.
It is no longer just a quiet Midwestern suburb.
Which really brings us to the architect of these deals. I mean, if you want to pull off a quiet, off-market waterfront transaction while simultaneously navigating a 506B syndication or a master lease option, you cannot just hire someone whose only skill is putting a for sale sign in a yard.
Definitely not. The complexity of the 2026 landscape requires a profound evolution of the modern real estate professional.
And Cara Condé's profile in these sources is like the ultimate case study for this evolution.
Absolutely.
There is an article title in her archive that grabs my attention immediately. It's called Beyond the Broker. Cara Condé's unfiltered journey from Oxford Code to Indianapolis Crown Jewels.
Yeah, that title says a lot.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because she actually has a background in coding. And she pairs that with certifications as a negotiation expert and a luxury home marketing specialist.
Right.
The materials state she uses cutting-edge digital technology to target a goal of closing $25 million in 2026 alone.
But you know, the most telling aspect of her archive isn't the marketing fluff. It's the highly technical guides she publishes.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
She isn't writing blogs about how to stage a living room with nice pillows.
Right.
She is publishing deep dive manuals on concepts like the 1031 exchange.
Let's unpack that one, actually, because I hear 1031 exchange thrown around constantly in wealth building circles. How does that actually work in this specific environment?
Well, a 1031 exchange is basically a tax deferral strategy. Let's say one of these investors sells a commercial warehouse in Plainfield for a massive $5 million profit.
Okay.
Normally, the government would take a massive bite out of that profit through capital gains taxes.
Right, which nobody likes.
Exactly. But under Section 1031 of the tax code, If the investor takes those profits and reinvests them into a like-kind property, say a portfolio of senior living apartments and figures within a strict time frame, they defer paying those capital gains taxes entirely.
So they just roll the snowball down the hill, basically gathering more tax-free equity as it goes.
Yep, that's the idea.
But orchestrating that requires like military-level precision with timelines and legal frameworks. It makes total sense why an agent would need an analytical, almost algorithmic mindset for that.
It really does.
The sources also mention she writes guides on DSCR and NOI.
Right. Debt service coverage ratio and net operating income. These are the lifeblood metrics of commercial real estate.
Okay, so break those down for me.
Well, NOI is simply the revenue a property generates minus its operating expenses. That one is pretty straightforward.
Makes sense.
But DSCR is the crucial one for securing whatever bank financing is still being utilized. It measures a property's cash flow against its debt obligations.
Ah, because an institutional investor buying a multifamily complex doesn't care if the kitchen countertops are pretty.
Not at all.
They only care if the rental income securely covers the debt load. So the agent has essentially evolved into a high-level financial strategist.
Exactly. The physical property, the bricks, the mortar, the wooden dock on Geist Reservoir, all of that is secondary.
Wow.
The modern luxury agent is trading complex financial instruments that just happen to take the shape of a house or a warehouse.
That's a wild way to think about it.
And Condi's background in Oxford Code perfectly aligns with the rigorous, data-driven methodology required to calculate equity multiples, model out cap rates, and really outsmart an artificially constrained market.
It's just a complete paradigm shift in how we view the industry. The people who hold the keys in 2026 are the ones who can speak the emotive language of a luxury lifestyle to a buyer, while simultaneously speaking the cold, mathematical language of institutional finance to an investor.
It is the ultimate financialization of physical space.
So let's bring all of these threads together. Because what started today as a look at some beautiful, secluded houses on an Indiana reservoir quickly mutated into a masterclass on artificial scarcity.
It certainly did.
We've explored the psychology of off-market private networks, the massive economic ripple effects of a Fed rate cut, and the creative, aggressive financing tactics like master lease options that investors are using to dominate the 2026 landscape.
The Admirals Pointe micromarket really serves as the perfect lens to view how modern wealth maneuvers, protects itself, and ultimately scales.
And I think the major takeaway for you listening is this. You might never plan to move to Indiana.
Right.
You might never have the desire to buy a commercial warehouse in Plainfield or swim off a private dock. But understanding these hidden mechanics makes you a vastly sharper, more dangerous observer of your own local economy.
Absolutely.
When you see a new corporate headquarters announced in your city, or when you notice that the most stunning homes in your area never seem to pop up on your real estate apps, you now understand the invisible gears turning just beneath the surface.
It really forces you to question the reality of the economic indicators all around you.
It does.
Which leaves us with a rather unsettling, but necessary question to mull over.
Oh, lay it on us.
If the most desirable residential properties are traded exclusively in secret, off-market networks, and commercial investors are using 506B syndications to entirely bypass traditional banking data, is the public real estate market we all see just an illusion?
Oh, man.
When you open that app on your phone, are you ever looking at the real economy, or are you just looking at the leftovers?
That is absolutely a thought that will stick with you the next time you're scrolling through those digital window displays. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.